Imagine getting a really difficult diagnosis. Your world is spinning, and right at that moment, someone hands you this huge stack of papers. It's filled with dense medical jargon about a clinical trial that might just be your best hope. It is an absolutely overwhelming moment. Well, today, we're going to dive into a really innovative attempt to bring some clarity to that chaos, using a digital tool designed to empower patients when they need it most. Let's see how they did it.
This number really sets the stage for us. 71%. That's a huge number, right? Well, according to the Institute of Medicine, that's how many late-stage oncology trials fail just because they can't enroll enough patients. Now, this isn't just a statistic. It is a massive bottleneck that slows down the development of new, potentially life-saving cancer treatments. It's a multi-billion-dollar problem, and it's rooted in a simple communication breakdown. So you have to ask, if these trials are so critical, why is it so incredibly hard to find volunteers? Well, the reasons are complicated, but one of the biggest hurdles is that very first step, just trying to understand what you're even signing up for. I mean, think about it. You've got patients and their families who are already under this immense emotional stress, and they're given these information forms that are long, technical, and frankly, almost impossible to get through. In fact, some research shows that up to half of the people who do join a trial don't fully grasp basic concepts like randomization or what a placebo is. That's a huge barrier to making a truly informed decision. So to tackle this problem head-on, a team of researchers decided there had to be a better way. Instead of yet another dense document, they developed a digital tool, an app designed specifically to cut through all that confusion and guide patients through this incredibly complex choice. So the app they built falls into a category of tools called patient decision aids, or PDAs. Now, the concept itself isn't new. They're designed to support what's called shared decision-making. The whole goal is to give patients unbiased information so they can weigh their options, figure out what's important to them, and then have a much more productive conversation with their doctor. But this study took that idea and really dialed it in. They created what's known as a trial-specific PDA, or a tPDA. This one was custom-built for a very specific, very complex Phase 2 trial for non-small cell lung cancer. It was testing a novel combination of immunotherapy and radiotherapy. Super complicated stuff where the standard documents just weren't cutting it. And here it is. This is the final version of the app. Look how clean and visual it is. It was designed from the ground up to be user-friendly. I mean, it's a world away from a 20-page document filled with tiny fine print, right? This is the tool at the heart of our story today. Now, building something that is both medically accurate and genuinely easy for anyone to use, well, that's no small feat. The researchers put their prototype through a rigorous 3-round gauntlet of testing to make sure it was ready for the real world. Their approach was methodical and, most importantly, user-focused. You can see their whole process laid out right here. It was all about being iterative. That means they started with an initial prototype, and then it went through these 3 distinct rounds of evaluation and refinement, each with different groups of experts. It's a really structured approach that puts the end user, the patient, right at the center of everything. Let's break that down. So, round 1 was a technical review. Computer scientists went in and just ironed out all the bugs. Round 2 was a clinical review. Doctors and medical students made sure every single piece of information was accurate and clear. And then, the most important step, round 3, they put the app directly into the hands of actual patients to see if it really worked. And you can literally see the results of all that feedback right here. The interface evolved from a pretty standard text-heavy web page into something much more engaging and intuitive for a phone. The transformation is just crystal clear. For example, one of the most critical changes came from the clinicians. They suggested replacing these long paragraphs that described the treatment timeline with a simple flowchart. Now, this wasn't just about making it look prettier, it was a fundamental shift to improve comprehension by visualizing complex information instead of just describing it. So, after all that work, the iterative design, the expert reviews, the patient feedback, we finally get to the big question. Did it actually work? Was the app truly usable and helpful for patients facing this decision? And the data delivered a very clear yes. Using something called the System Usability Score, it's a standard measure where anything over 68 is considered above average. The app performed incredibly well. Clinicians and medical students gave it high marks. But the most important number? The patient score was 81. In usability terms, that is considered excellent. The intended users found the tool highly effective.
And the feedback from patients tells us why it scored so well. They themselves pointed to its logical structure, clarity, and comprehensibility. It simply made complex information much, much easier to understand.
And on top of being clear, it was also efficient. The majority of patients were able to get through all the necessary information in under 30 minutes. That's a huge deal in a busy clinic and for patients who may not have the energy for a marathon review session.
Okay, so the results are clearly promising. This study proved you can build a great tool. But what does this mean for the future of clinical trials and patient care on a larger scale?
The number one takeaway here is that building these digital decision aids is entirely feasible. This study provides a blueprint for how to replace those outdated, ineffective paper forms with engaging tools that actually support informed consent and improve the patient experience. However, there are still some major hurdles to overcome. The big one is, do these tools actually improve trial enrollment rates? The study didn't measure that, and previous research is a bit mixed. Then there's the question of cost and scalability. And crucially, how do we make sure these tools are accessible to everyone, including older patients or those who aren't as comfortable with technology?
It leaves us with a really powerful final question. This study suggests that sometimes the biggest barrier to medical innovation isn't the science itself, it's the paperwork. And maybe, just maybe, the next great medical breakthrough won't come from a test tube, but from an app that finally makes the science understandable to the very people who need it most.